Hey, alrighty, so welcome to part 4. Um, it kind of reiterates what I've already gone over, but I get in a little more detail. But basically, again, so this, if you click on this here, actually this is supposed to be tradition here, not authority, but it brings you right to the slide here anyway. So 1 Corinthians 11:12, let's just zoom in. So this is Jimmy Akin's slide. So 11:2, is referring to both Jewish traditions, which entail the oracles of God, okay? And which also entailed Acts 17:11 and teaching, which we find in, you can find other examples too. So that's what's going on with 1 Corinthians 11:2 in this slide, okay? So hopefully, I'm just trying to correct Jimmy White here, what he's actually talking about, what tradition you're talking about. These two traditions are the only tradition recorded. This is referring to Acts 17:10-12 and 2 Timothy 2:2. These two traditions are the only tradition recorded in the Bible that was handed to the Gentiles by the Jews. Luke was a proselyte, so he was considered an inward Jew. So both 2 Corinthians 2:15 was referring to just the oral written tradition, and 2 Thessalonians 3:6 was referring to oral tradition amongst the Jews. Verse 11 kind of goes into more detail. So when you read it, and the very next verse, so if you're reading verse 3:6, and you're wondering, well, was it oral written? It answer for that in verse 11. Okay, it gives you an idea which one it's talking about. So this is definitely still talking about the Jewish tradition. The gathering mentioned in chapter 2 of 2 Thessalonians would have been in the forefront of their minds in chapter 3. So keep that in mind. They're reading this. These were the Jewish Christians, okay? And they had to leave quietly for the gathering so the persecutors would not follow them, okay? So that's why we don't see it so clear in Scripture what's actually going on. But if you have that in mind as you're reading Scripture, okay, they're looking for the gathering, you're going to see bits and pieces here and there. Oh, I would not have seen that if I had not known that. Okay, they left quietly and subtly. So what's interesting is Paul, the apostle of the Gentiles, right? So in a way, he's writing to the Jewish Christian, but he's also writing for us, so we can see from their perspective really what's going on. So it's fascinating. So anyway, 2 Thessalonians 2 is referring to gathering the house of Israel. We see more of this here. The judgment of 12 tribes of Israel. The judgment of 12 tribes of Israel, the Gentiles were not a part of. So we're not part of any tribe. Okay, that had totally to do with the house of Israel, the Jews who came to Christ. All right. So some things I want to point out. So in 2 Thessalonians 2:2, the us here was referring to apostles. So they were waiting for a letter or something oral, again, the Jewish tradition, so they knew when to go, okay? But these things had to happen first, with Paul pointing out, okay? The apostasy had to happen first with the Jewish revolt. The man of laws had to be revealed. His name was Elder. He was identified on August 14th, 86. His dad died. His dad was the restrainer. His dad died that day. That same day, ordered a cessation sacrifices to Caesar, which fulfilled Daniel 12:11. So that was a big day in prophecy right there. And 2 Thessalonians 2:8, Elder gave a speech at the Masada in AD 73, resulting in suicide amongst the Jews there who rejected Christ. A lot of enemies destroyed, whom they could see from the mountaintop between the Masada, where the Israel enemies were, and Petra. Okay, so all the more reason why they would have shouted in their last Yom Teruah before they 1 Thessalonians 4 is fulfilled. So it's working with Satan with Eleazar, the lawless one, not Jesus. Okay, a lot of English translations make it work out that make it look like working with Satan was on Christ. You know, that's just not what's going on. So the reason why I bring this up, the epistle they were waiting for, written or oral, was 1 Peter, which was written to the 5 churches near Church of Thessalonica. Okay, so they would have passed on either orally or written to Thessalonica, telling them it's time to go. Alrighty. So the very first verse, 1 Peter, keep in mind he was an apostle to the Jews, not Gentiles. He's writing to the Jewish Christians in those 5 churches. They had a history, okay? So when Peter writes to them, you're scattered, it will flung up a whole bunch of their history, okay? And it was a subtle way of telling them, it's time for your gathering. It's time for the gathering. It's time to go. And so 1 Peter chapter 5, where he mentioned Mark, 5 verse 13, he mentioned Mark. Well, Mark was in Alexandria, Egypt. And Babylon, there are 2 different Babylons on the map at the time. There's Babylon, Iraq, and Babylon, Egypt. So the Jewish Christians that received that letter, they knew immediately which Babylon Peter's referring to. They knew it was not Babylon, Iraq, because they had the 70-year captivity, and that's what caused them to get scattered from the first place. Egypt at that time was considered a safe place. You go to Matthew chapter 2, where Mary and Joseph brought baby Jesus to Egypt. That was considered a safe place. So that's their culture and setting at the time. So when he mentioned Babylon, they knew immediately it was Babylon, Egypt, which is really close to Mark. Okay, so I know Eusebius had fooled billions of into thinking Babylon is code for Rome. Oh, he's using a metaphor for Rome. That is absolutely 100% grade A false. Okay, that is so false. Alrighty, so if you want to believe that, go right ahead. If you want to believe all the fabrications, believing that Peter was in Rome, go right ahead. If you want to believe all that stuff, you're gonna miss out on the truth. That's all there is to it. So anyway, yeah, not much here, but. So he mentions about being authoritative. And again, we have to be careful not to take a word and interject it in the Bible. It sounds good. It looks believable. If you add the word authority in there, it looks believable. But you have to be careful not to add it. That's exactly what the mistake that Jimmy Akin is doing. Apostolic tradition is authoritative. There's nothing in here about authority in here. So it's a different mindset. When you add so much as one word to the text, it completely changes the mindset. And we have to be careful not to do that. So anyway, that's all I pretty much have for this. Not a whole lot of hermeneutics in this one. But I hope that you see what's going on here. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, they're waiting for that letter or the oral, and it was 1 Peter that they finally received, telling them it's time to go for the gathering. So all these things happened. That's all I have. So thank you very much, and see you in part 4, hopefully. Thank you.